Hi, this is Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. If you're like me, you like to take a look at fights and you like to think of how the guy who lost could have won the fight, how things could have been different, and how the fighter who won the fight um, could have been rendered vulnerable in the match. Let's talk about last night's fight between Devin Alexander, a rising star. He's highly skilled. He is the light welterweight champion. He picked up another belt yesterday in a unification match with Juan Urango. I think it's important to think about these things in analyzing Devin Alexander because he's going to be in some pretty big fights. And as we know, there's some awfully big names in his division and around his division. Names like Nate Campbell, names like Timothy Bradley, names like Edwin Valero. Now, Alexander was masterful yesterday. I have an earlier video where I picked Alexander to win the fight. That should still be up on YouTube. But as I watched the fight, I realized that the fight was there for the taking if Juan Urango fought a different match. In particular, take a look at Urango's defense. Understand this was a fight between a boxer with lateral movement who shoots a jab to create distance, right? He shoots that jab, creates distance. Then when you come inside, he has slick moves where he can use lateral movement to move out of your way quickly. He doesn't have to set his feet that long before firing punches, and he has a devastating right uppercut that literally freezes fighters who try to get inside on him. It's clear that Alexander's comfort zone is having you at mid-range to long range. He doesn't like to fight inside. He doesn't like to have his back up against the ropes. Now, Juan Urango is your prototypical straight line. He moves in straight lines, hook artist. And he's fascinating because he throws hooks with both hands. He calls himself Iron Twin. I understand in real life he has a twin. I believe, though, that the name is a double entendre to talk about both of his hooks. He's a devastating hooker. He can hook to the body. He can hook to the head. And Juan Urango, very strong, doesn't mind fighting inside, but has a problem getting inside against mobile fighters with foot speed and lateral movement like Devin Alexander. Now, I believe as you look at the fight, there are a couple of things. First, Alexander moves his head back. He has great reflexes, and when you throw a hook, the way he gets out of the way, at least, let's say, 40% of the time, is he simply moves his head back. Now, we've seen this with Muhammad Ali, young Ali, when he was Cassius Clay, right? Look at the Liston tapes. He's just moving his head back, doesn't put his hands up. He allows Liston to throw punches, and he just moves his head back. And we see this today with the guy I believe is the best heavyweight on the planet, Vitaly Klitschko. One of the secrets to Klitschko's success is even when he's fighting a slugger like Chris Arreola, when Arreola gets inside, Klitschko, who's tall, is able to use length, and he just leans his head back to get his head out of the range of the hooks. Right? Now, there's a problem with that. One of the things that made, I'll name some names, Roberto Duran great, Joe Frazier great, is they could do what I call stutter the hook, delay the hook. In other words, the problem with guys who don't raise their hands to block the hook and who just lean their head back is if you know what you're doing, you could literally time your hook so that the guy who has his hands down, when he leans his head back, thinking you're throwing the hook, you don't throw it. Then as he leans forward and he's naked, because keep in mind, his hands are down. He's just dodging your punches by head movement. When he leans forward, that's when you throw the hook and you catch him clean, you catch him naked. Um, Take a look at the Ali Frazier fight. You're going to see that one of the secrets to Frazier's success is he actually has a little hook motion in his hook. So as Ali leans his head back, it takes Frazier a little bit longer than expected to get the hook to Ali. And of course, when Frazier drops Ali, Ali literally has his hands down. I believe if Juan Urango had just timed it a little bit better, if he had come in and feinted like he was going to throw the hook, and it takes a while to set this up, right? Because you have to throw the hook enough so that the other fighter thinks he has it timed. If Urango would have just started feinting like Roberto Duran used to do, just started feinting for a split second, so Alexander leans back and thought he had the hook dodged, and then leaned forward, Urango would have had a clean shot on Alexander. And that's the kind of clean shot Urango got off on Randall Bailey. Bailey went down. Urango has KO power in both hands. I believe he missed an opportunity here in this fight. A simple feint and then throwing the punch could have gotten the job done. Let me give props to a champion right now, Arthur Abraham. He's a master at feints like this. Later in the fight, Devin Alexander started to raise his hand to block Urango's right hook, right? Starts to raise his hand to block the hook. Here's how you handle that. Arthur Abraham, when he has figured out a fighter, and it takes him about 3 rounds to do it, he'll start feinting a right hook so the guy has his hands up, right, to block the right. Then, of course, Abraham will come in with the left hook, and he'll have the guy completely naked on the left side. Take a look at Abraham's victory over Edison Miranda. In other words, guys who feint and know how to use feints are a higher level of fighter than guys who don't. And unfortunately, Juan Urango isn't much of a feinter. Let me also say another thing about Devin Alexander, and I hope his people are talking to him. I know he has Kevin Cunningham as his trainer. Alexander makes noise when he throws punches. He goes, huh, 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 and he throws punches. Huh, huh, huh. What he might want to consider doing is to start using his voice as a weapon. What he should start doing is, just like I was talking about stuttering a hook, he should start stuttering his voice. In other words, if he really wants to set someone up, at key moments in the fight, he should go, huh, without throwing a punch. Have the guy cover up, thinking he's dealing with Alexander's very good jab. Then Alexander, if the guy's covered up, let's say up top, to avoid the jab that Alexander's feinting, Alexander would then have a clear shot at his rib cage, or depending on the opponent's defense, he'd have a clear shot at, let's say, an uppercut or something underneath. Let me also point out, too, that skillful fighters like a Bernard Hopkins, a little bit higher in weight, Bernard Hopkins will actually see a fighter bouncing, time the bounces, he'll hear a fighter going, ha, 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 and he'll be able to time the punches off the audio. You don't want to ha, ha, ha your way through a fight, because that telegraphs things a little bit too much. You only want to telegraph things if there's strategy involved, if you're telegraphing stuff to get the other fighter to fall into a trap. I think it's a big myth that boxing is about fighting. I think what you're seeing is a sport that's really a chess match with punches. And I think if you look at Devin Alexander's victory over Juan Urango yesterday, and it was lopsided, understand with a few different moves, that fight could have been different. Also, look at the distance between the fighters. Early, Urango has no idea how to get inside. Later, Urango starts to get inside. My point to you is, had that fight continued, if Urango just used feints a little bit more effectively, perhaps he could have even gotten some power hook shots in on Devin Alexander. Let me know what you think. I know it's a geeky video, but I'm a geek. Thanks for watching. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks.